What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're gonna go from downtown Los Angeles up to Woodland Hills. It's morning rush hour traffic in Los Angeles, so we'll see how Autopilot does in today's morning drive through this just LA traffic. So welcome back to the channel and thanks for watching another video, and let's get into it. Hopefully you guys can see. I didn't even check if it's too bright outside or not, but I just got on the highway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it into autopilot. It's one of those things where I'm trying a new camera angle right now, so this is pretty far back. Okay, it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna restore it back to my seating position. All right, so we just got onto the highway, just threw it into autopilot. Of course, there's just a ton of traffic, especially in the downtown area where we go from the 110 up to, I think, the 5 highway. So we have to stay in this lane because it's going to merge or take this highway on-ramp to the right, and then there's just going to be more traffic as we pass through Hollywood in those areas. Just crawling through traffic right now, 15 miles an hour, just pacing this car in front of us. This is only autopilot, no full self-driving. I did not opt to get that package this go around with this Model Y. I had full self-driving on my Model 3 that I just sold. It was a 2019 Model 3 Performance Stealth. I just sold it, and now I have a Model Y, a 2021 Tesla Model Y Performance full package, not stealth at all. But it really only has autopilot, no full self-driving, and so though I do have to take it out of autopilot every single time I want to change lanes. So I do need to get into this lane, which actually goes up to the 101. So I'm going to just throw it out of autopilot, turn on my right signal. Of course, these cars on our right are trying to come into our lane as well. So I just made the lane change. I'm gonna throw it back into autopilot. So it is kind of annoying when you do that. When you throw it out of autopilot and you make a lane change and throw it back into autopilot, it sets your autopilot speed to whatever speed you're going. So at that moment, I was only really going 13 miles an hour. So I have now increased it all the way back up to 60 miles an hour. We're probably not gonna hit those speeds at this current pace right now in this traffic, but if and when we do, it will just increase speed back up to 60 miles an hour. Looks like the right lane is a little bit more emptier, so I just threw it out of autopilot, made the right lane change, and is this truck coming into our lane? Can't necessarily tell because, oh, okay, so the signal was actually right there. So I just let them come into our lane, and I'm gonna throw it back into autopilot and then increase speed. Thanks for watching another video, guys. If you're new here, my name is Dennis. I have a Tesla Model Y Performance, and I make videos about my experience. So if you're interested in any of that, please hit that subscribe. So we're just pacing these cars in front of us. This highway ramp goes to the left. So this should be pretty interesting because this is gonna take it pretty slowly though, and it's just gonna fall along the lanes as it hangs to the left. But I've had gone through this route a couple times with my old Tesla, and it's definitely glitched a couple times in this area. So heavy braking now, coming to a complete stop at 2 miles an hour. Cruise control or speed control setting is still set to 25 miles an hour. So I'm gonna increase that to 55. So that way it has enough room to accelerate when it needs to. Now we're hanging to the left right here for this highway on-ramp onto the 101. Just going 8 miles an hour, just slowly following these cars in front of us. Hopefully there won't be too much traffic in the Hollywood area, but then we'll pass through Studio City, that's where it usually opens up until we get to the North Hollywood area. Heavy braking, coming to a complete stop. I think it thinks that the shadow of the bridge is some sort of object, so it did slow to a complete stop right there. Increasing speed, pretty jerky right there. It's like lurching forward a little bit up to like 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, and then it's slowing right back down to 4 miles an hour. I think there's like a 3-lane highway merge, or actually 4 lanes. There's one on to the right side that's coming on to merge with us. We're in 2 lanes right now coming from the previous highway, and then the 101 definitely has a lane that merges with us as well. So this is a 4-way highway merge right here. So let's see how autopilot does in this scenario. Okay, some acceleration lurches right there. We got some cars coming up from the right side that's merging into our lane immediately. Autopilot is accelerating a little bit here just to close this gap, but I imagine it's going to brake soon as this Subaru comes into our lane. Autopilot is still closing this gap. It hasn't necessarily detected that this Subaru is coming in. Okay, it's just gonna go ahead and accelerate. And this Subaru is, I think, going... Okay, I'm just going to brake because the Subaru wasn't going to come into our lane at all. And Autopilot was just going to keep inching forward and not let the Subaru go. So I just threw out Autopilot and now I'm throwing it back into Autopilot. All right, increasing speed now to 65 miles an hour. This car in front of us is coming out of our right lane. We're gonna increase a little bit. I think Autopilot is gonna increase at some point, but we're just gonna heavy up on the accelerator as we go up to 80 miles an hour. I'm gonna get into the left lane, so I threw out of Autopilot, making the lane change, and then throwing it back into Autopilot. Increasing speed up to 80 miles an hour. We're just following this car in front of us. Traffic has light up or lifted up a little bit, light up a little bit. This car in front of us just braked a little bit, but Autopilot braked as well pretty heavily. I guess it thought that the car in front of us was going to come to a stop. Just cruising along here at 62 miles an hour, just following this car in front of us. It seems like there's a pretty big gap, but I guess we're at the follow gap or follow speed setting of 1. Increasing speed to 66 miles an hour. Definitely a more bumpier ride as we go through these sections of the highway up towards Hollywood. This car just came out of our lane and Autopilot is slowly closing the gap now. It actually hasn't increased speed at all. It's still going at 62 miles an hour, but this car, I guess, is going slower than us. And so we're slowly inching up on it. In terms of what version this is 2021 or version 10.2, 2021.4.18. And this is the latest version at the time of this recording. Of course, I don't have full self-driving. I just have Autopilot, and I believe my car has radar as well. I took delivery in late April, right before the cutoff of when they said radar was not going to be included in the May cars. This Sienna is going pretty slow, so I'm going to go ahead and lane change out to the left and then probably throw it into Autopilot once we get into this lane. In terms of the conditions outside, it's pretty sunny. There's a little bit of clouds, 79 degrees. Really no conditions here that can affect the Autopilot system cameras, hopefully. And we haven't had any glitches just yet. But we're just cruising along right now, 62 miles an hour, going up to the Woodland Hills area. And this area shouldn't really have too much traffic. But once we get into the next highway, which is the 101, once we continue on to the 101 North, we should run into a little bit of traffic in the North Hollywood area, I imagine. Okay, everybody's just like driving like idiots, I guess. That truck got really close to our lane, so I just threw it out of Autopilot and increased speed to just really get out of its way. But I guess just driving in LA, you gotta be careful. There's cars just sway within the lanes, make lane changes without really looking. Every car should really have a blind spot detection, but then I guess if every car really has that, then people will just get lazy and just won't even look on their own with the mirrors. They'll just rely on the technology. I think this camera angle isn't low enough because I can see it directly within my mirror right here, but increased speed to get away from those cars, and now we're going about 85 miles an hour. This truck is coming into our lane, so I'm gonna lane change pretty quickly right here and then throw it back into Autopilot. Autopilot's braking for some reason. I guess it detects that that truck is in front of us, but we should be able to increase speed past it right now. Just threw it out of Autopilot, went to the right, and then threw it back into Autopilot. There's a car coming up right here, so I'm gonna throw it out of Autopilot just so I can get out of its way and get into this lane, because I just can tell that Autopilot is going to brake immediately pretty hard. Cruising right now at 55 miles an hour. We're just following the cars in front of us. Autopilot's just following along, increasing, kind of jerking or lurch, accelerating a little bit as we close the gap in front of us. We're kind of going through a construction area zone right now. There's concrete barriers on our left, So these cars in the left lane right here are kind of hovering pretty close to the right lane. So I definitely do not want to be on the side of one of these cars. Okay, cars in front of us are braking a little bit. Autopilot just threw on the nag timer as well, just as the cars started to brake. So our autopilot started to brake as well. Tesla slowed down to 30 miles an hour, now under to 25. Looks like there's a little bit of traffic here. I can't really tell what's going on. I guess maybe there was a lane. Okay, so there's a highway coming in from the right, which caused a little bit of traffic because there's just more cars on the highway. So definitely a pretty eventful morning drive. Some traffic. Autopilot did pretty well though, except for that one merge area where there was 4 lanes coming into one, and Autopilot just kept lurching forward, and it was just not going to let the Subaru from the right side come into our lane. So there's just probably a little bit of traffic here, and then it's going to be open sailing or open traffic from here on out. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and end it, guys. Thanks for watching another video. Please hit that like if you enjoyed it, and comment below if you have this latest version, or if you have any questions on Tesla or the Tesla Autopilot system. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.